Well, we're with you here on a Tuesday morning. Thanks for joining us. I'm Marlon Bowling, and we're going to be taking a look at what's going to be driving our grain trade here in this segment. And we'll be talking with Rich Nelson of Allendale Incorporated in McHenry, Illinois. Right off the top, a couple overnight export sales to report from USDA. Here's a closer look. 120,000 tons of corn sold to Japan, and we have another 105,000 ton batch that was sold to unknown destinations. So we continue to really surge ahead with the exports on the corn, helping to make up that deficit that we have had on shipping corn compared to a year ago. So let's go ahead and talk with Rich Nelson now, and he joins us. Rich, good morning. That should be a shot in the arm, you would think, to the corn market this morning. Do you think we'll be able to tell?
You know, I think as far as current pricing, maybe we'll just see maybe a penny or so trade as far as higher trade off the open, but I don't think for right now. Markets probably got focused on some other issues here, specifically some outside market influence here for today's discussion here.
All right, help us make sense out of what we saw happen yesterday. There was so much going on, pulling and tugging and pushing on the markets here. As we get into Tuesday here now, as you mentioned, a lot of outside influence. Explain what's going on.
So, of course, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the closely followed measure of the stock market, the one that the public is familiar with, that one had a huge decline here yesterday. At one point, we were down 1,597 points here before rebounding a little bit here by the closing session. But in terms of the overall market influence, a lot of people are now questioning whether the stock market maybe has a top or at least a near-term top in place and how that could affect us on the commodity side here.
How much of a role did that play in the dollar rallying yesterday? Because I heard that kind of put pressure on the overall ag complex.
It sure did, and maybe this is one thing which is maybe starting to change things a little bit here. This perception that perhaps we'll go to maybe a little more inflation environment here these next few months or years with a brand new Fed chair. Also some concerns here or some discussions that this new Fed chair may be a little more hawkish, maybe more interested in raising interest rates, and that would be something which could therefore begin to support this falling U.S. dollar index here.
So the dollar has firmed up at last check, up 350 points again on the March contract at 89.760. So we just saw evidence here just a moment ago of two more batches of corn sold over the past 24 hours. And we had very good corn exports reported last week. Do you think that may start coming to a screeching halt if we have the dollar continuing to climb or not?
You know, boy, I sure hope not. And I hope that if nothing else, we'll stay at this generally lower level for the U.S. dollar index until we can kind of figure out whether these other outside market issues have been taken care of or whether the market is done. So I would suspect maybe the U.S. dollar index, instead of going straight up, possibly all we're going to do now is maybe stabilize this falling U.S. dollar index. And if nothing else, maybe at least add a little support for us on the export side here for U.S. grains.
Let's run through the overnight trade. On the corn side of things here on the Globex, we were a half-cent higher on March this morning at 359.25. On the soybean side, we have the March contract 5.5 higher at 975.25. And if you look at the wheat trade in Chicago wheat, we had March a penny and a quarter higher at 441.5. Moving on to Kansas City wheat, overnight the March was up a half cent at 462.25 at last check. Meanwhile, Minneapolis March wheat was trading at 603.25. That was up a penny and a half. And in the cotton market, well, we had the March trading 48 points lower again at 76.09, but still the December holding above 74 cents at 74.45. It was down 30 points. Real quickly here, Rich, big reports coming up day after tomorrow, and we're going to have to be taking a look at that. What do you think? The biggest impact will be supply and demand numbers, I'm guessing, right?
Supply band certainly, and also what USDA will do to this Argentine and Brazilian soybean crop as well.
Excellent. All right. Well, we'll be watching for that. Thank you, Rich. Good to talk to you again. Rich Nelson of Allendale Incorporated. We'll be back looking at the livestock side right after this.